What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I am making my EICMA predictions, or rather, prediction singular, because there's only one company where I feel confident in my prediction for their motorcycle. So today, we're going to take our guest star, the Aprilia RSV Melee, and we're going to talk about Harley Davidson and their new models that they may or may not be revealing at EICMA in a couple of weeks. Let's go for a ride. All right, folks, so obviously it's a bit of a cottage industry making predictions for EICMA. Every year people come out with what they think they're going to see at the Milan Motorcycle Show. And this time I actually have some numbers and some articles and some sources to back up my prediction for what's going to happen with Harley Davidson potentially by the end of this year. So we're going to go talk about it, but first I got to take a second and shout out our sponsor for today's video, Flying Eyes. They make these super nice sunglasses that you can put under your helmet. The temples are super thin so you don't get any pressure points. They're really bendy and you basically can't break them, and you kind of just chuck them around and they're totally fine. The lenses are actually backed by a year warranty, which includes scratches, and that's super awesome, especially if you chuck them up in the air and then drop them like I do from time to time when I'm on camera. If you want to get yourself a pair, click the link down in the description below and use the code SPITE for 10% off your order. I promised when I started taking on sponsors that I wasn't going to put any sponsor on the channel that I didn't believe in. I do believe in Flying Eyes. They're a local business here and they make a great product. So check them out down below, and a big shout out to you guys for supporting the people who support the show. So let's hit the road and talk about what's going on behind the scenes at Harley Davidson. Before we get too far in though, I've got to give you a sound clip on the Melee, right? Yeah, for a 20-year-old Italian sport bike, it just wakes right up. So I am going to be doing a full day in the saddle review on this. I'm actually filming this while I'm in the middle of making it. So if you're interested to know my thoughts on this relic of an Italian sport bike, stay tuned to the channel and you'll see that coming out probably in the next 2 weeks. So let's start off as we normally do with the facts. So the first thing is back in April, early April 2022, Harley got caught. They were sneaking some parts out for some new motorcycles, and a accessory code for, I believe it was a gas cap, was discovered by Dennis Chung over at motorcycle.com, and it listed a whole bunch of fitment options, and specifically one of them was the RA 975 and RA 965S.
Hey guys, Editing Spite here. Every time I mention the 965, I need to issue a correction. It's 975S. Originally, when the article came out, they did say that there was a 965. It appears that that is a typo, and I just used 965S as my mental shorthand for the special. It's actually a 975S. I am going to correct it on screen, but I do say it a lot, so I just want to make sure that you guys understand that there isn't a 965S, or at least it doesn't seem that way yet. It seems 965 was a typo, and it should be 975S.
Now, I spoke about this a little bit when I talked about the Evo Sportster being retired, but the RA 975 and 975S point directly to the Pan America, because the Pan America's model designation is RA. For those of you who don't know, Harley Davidson uses 2 letters and then the displacement for their model designations. They're actual, like, manufacturer designations, like XL is Sportster and FX is Softail. So RA points to Pan America. However, we didn't know that there was a 975, and at the time of talking, there isn't one yet. And so I've been keeping my eye on this since early 2022. And recently, Dennis Chung strikes again with proof that there is an RA 975 coming out, because they have install instructions for, I believe, mirror mounts or something like that. I'll have pictures if they're available. They're officially showing these install instructions from like 9 different countries in Europe. And you're not going to make install instructions with pictures for a motorcycle that you are not about to release. The real nugget, though, isn't just that it's confirming that the motorcycles were coming out. We kind of knew when the Nightster 975 came out that we were probably going to see a middleweight Pan America. The real nugget was that it was listed for a model year 2022. Now, at time of talking right now, it is the last week of October 2022, which means there is not much 2022 left. So if they are going to release this motorcycle, it's coming right around the corner. And it wouldn't be the first time we have a mid-year release of a motorcycle. Good grief. A sport bike isn't the best when you're going over a whole bunch of potholes. So those are the facts of the story as they are right now. We've got these accessory install instructions and basically all but confirmation that this motorcycle's coming out, and that it could be coming out right around the corner. Now it's time to dive into heavy duty speculation. So guys, everything from here on out in this video is going to be speculation as to what I believe this motorcycle is going to be. However, I have spent a lot of time on the Pan America, and I've read their entire slideshow brief. It's like 160 slides or something like that. I nerded out over the Pan America, so I know a lot about their design philosophy and the reasons why they did what they did with the 1250. So I have a good understanding of what I think they'll do with the 975. So the first thing I want to talk about is looks. What will this motorcycle look like? Honestly, I think it's going to look very, very similar to the Pan America. I wouldn't expect a big beak to be on the front of the bike. I wouldn't expect to see, you know, big mud guards or, you know, super crazy aggressive looks or anything like that. I would expect it to look a lot like a normal Pan America, because again, look at any motorcycle on Harley Davidson's lot and you see a design language running through all of them. They all have this, for want of a better term, Harley look about them. And for the Pan America specifically, Harley did not want to put a big beaky fender on there. It's why the front end looks the way that it does, because they didn't want to go with that old school kind of Dakar styling. They wanted to do their own thing, and they totally did. So looks wise, don't expect something that's going to completely reshape the world here. It's possible that Harley Davidson diverges from the Pan America design language, but I kind of doubt it. So beyond the looks, what kind of power can we expect out of this motorcycle? And what will it look like relative to the other middleweight categories? So we're probably going to see 2 versions of this motorcycle. Now the 975, I expect to basically just be a complete, let's take what's in the Nightster and plop it in here and call it a day, because it's making like 90 horsepower and 74 foot-pounds of torque, if I remember correctly. And the 975 is going to be positioned more as adventure touring or hardcore touring, like your Tiger Sports or something like that. Not like a Tuareg or an 890. That sort of motorcycle is going to be the purview of the 965. So the 965 bears the S designation, which that is going to denote a special. Every time you have S at the end of a model in Harley's lineup, it means special. So for that one, I'm expecting a 21-inch front end and proper ADV stuff. So this is going to be, you know, your real flagship middleweight ADV bike, which is kind of funny to say, but when you look at the middleweight adventure category, that's really where guys who ride off-road are looking for their adventure bikes. They're not buying a Multistrada V4 or a BMW R1250 GS or even a Pan America, despite how much fun it is off-road, they're not buying those necessarily to ride them hard off-road. However, the guys who are looking to do adventures are looking at middleweights. So I could see this 965S being the competitor in the middleweight category versus the 975, which is going to be basically your sport touring choice. Power-wise, I would expect that motorcycle to be making probably around about 100-ish horsepower and probably a very similar amount of torque to what it's currently making. The reason why is because I know for a fact that that 975 mil can make more power than it currently is. They can make a ton of juice out of that bike. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get into my real worry with this motorcycle is price. What is it going to cost? Well, if it's positioned at 90 horsepower and 74 foot-pounds of torque, or like 180 foot-pounds, something like that, you know, 100 horsepower, 80 foot-pounds, I would expect it to come in somewhere between 13 to 15,000 bucks. And the reason why I'm thinking that is because if it comes in any higher, then you start asking the question, well, why not just go up to the full-size Pan America, or why not go with a other flagship offering, or why not go with one of the significantly cheaper middleweights? When Harley released the Pan America, I thought it was going to be like 25 grand, but the base model comes in at like 17. So it's actually really well placed in the market for the price they're asking for it, which is awesome. And I don't think Harley's going to screw that up again. I said when the Pan Am first came out that they had to come correct, and they did. It's even more so the case that in the middleweight category, they have to be spot on. They can't screw this up, because the guys who look at middleweight ADV bikes, they care about every spec and every penny they pay for their motorcycle. You can't mess it up, and I don't think Harley Davidson is taking that lightly. Now, speaking of lightly, the last thing, and my biggest concern, is weight. So, as many of you who ride Harleys know, a lot of Harleys share very similar lower ends with different top-end displacements. Look at bikes like the 883 and the 1200. Very, very similar lower-end architecture with just bigger pistons on the 1200. Same deal with the 103, 107, 114, 117 Milwaukee 8s. Very similar low ends versus different displacements on the top. And I could not confirm this detail. I could not confirm this, so take it with a grain of salt. But my understanding is the top end is the only difference between the 975 Nightster and the Sportster S. I could not confirm that, but everything looks very similar. It feels like a slightly modified top end that only has the variable valve timing on the intake cam, not on the exhaust. Now, if that's the case, I'm really concerned about the weight, because when you look at Harley's engines, they're these big lumps of stuff, right? They're big, heavy machines. And in some cases, the smaller displacement motorcycles are actually heavier than the bigger displacement bikes. Look at the Sportster. The 883 is heavier than the Iron 1200. And then you look at bikes like the Lowrider ST versus the Fat Bob, and the difference in weight there is only a couple of pounds lighter for the Fat Bob. So when you look at that, the difference in weight between the Sportster S and the Nightster is only 21 pounds. Let's assume that all 21 pounds of the weight savings are in the engine. They shave 21 pounds off the bike, and it's all in the engine. Everything else is the same. If the same is true for the 1250 Pan America to the 975 Pan Am, you're only saving 21 pounds on a 540 pound motorcycle, weighing this in at 519 pounds wet and ready to ride. That is rough. That is really rough for a middleweight ADV bike. There's other places that they could cut weight, but if it looks very similar, I don't know that they're going to be able to get the weight down. And the thing is Harley knows this. Harley knows that weight is super important on ADV bikes, because on the Pan Am, they had a deal with a magazine where one pundit was like, if you get this bike in under like 530 pounds dry or something like that, I'll buy the whole design team pizza. And they did. They really cared to get this bike weighing in right. So I'm sure they can do it again. I just question whether or not they're really going to be able to like hit that nail on the head and absolutely send it home. So let's wrap up my thoughts here. I believe that in the next few weeks, we're going to see news about a Harley Davidson 975 Pan America and a 965S, which are going to be these new middleweight ADV motorcycles. However, I think that they're going to be a little bit heavy for what they are, despite the fact that Harley really cares about the Pan America. I do have my concerns, but I'm also sitting here completely hopeful that they're going to be able to repeat the magic that they were able to make on the Pan Am. Because honestly, I love the Pan America, and I'm all for a new middleweight entry from the Bar and Shield. And with that, guys, I'm gonna sign off. Remember, a big shout out to Flying Eyes for supporting this video. If you want to get yourself a pair of the most comfortable sunglasses I've ever worn on a motorcycle, click that link down in the description below and use the code SPITE for 10% off your order. And I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.